With my little boy, when I had him a couple of years back, I mainly concentrated on expressing, but because it was my first time ever, I made an effort where of course, I didn't know anything about hand expressing. So I mainly concentrated on expressing I used like electric pump, but also manual pump. Eventually, I got to a point where I decided to go for the manual pump because at some point I went back into work and I still wanted to express milk for my baby. So I continued manually pumping for quite a while until my boy was about 2 years old. That's when I stopped that. My electric pumping didn't work for me because I just thought, oh gosh, it's a little bit too much for me. And of course, I wasn't going to stay in a place where I needed a plug to be able to plug in so that I can be able to pump. So I got to a point where I thought it's just much more easier for me to use a manual pump because I don't need to pump it to connect it to any electricity or power to be able to pump. So I did manual pumping throughout with my first baby. With this second one, I decided, I think because I was in and out of hospital at the beginning, and I thought, you know what, I have to learn ways of surviving and pumping even if I do not have a pump with me. So I started to try the hand expressing, which was difficult to start for a start because I didn't know how to do it for sure. And then with time, I became a little bit more better with it, and it's much more what I use most of the time. So if I was to compare the difference between manual pumping and hand expressing, because of course those are the ones that I've used quite a lot, I will say they both of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. If you're looking at, let's say, the manual pumping, of course, when I use the pump, it's much more quicker. So I always aim to have almost a similar amount of milk that I express. So for me, the quantity is not really the biggest problem. Sometimes it's just the convenience. So the manual pump tends to be a bit more quicker for me. And then, of course, when I manually pump and then I go in again with the hand and do some hand expressing, it can give me a little bit more milk and quicker for sure compared to when I'm doing hand expressing. So hand expressing tends to be a little bit much more slower, tends to be a little bit much more time that I need compared to when I'm using, of course, machine, which does make sense if you're using a pump, is more of like equipment rather than just using your hand. The advantage with hand expressing, of course, is I can express anywhere. I do not need to buy anything. It's just basically free, kind of, sort of, in a way. So I use just my hands, which is what God has given me, and I'm able to express for my baby. The disadvantage with hand expressing, of course, it's more laborious. It takes more time, but also if you're not careful, you can actually end up scarring having tissue scarring because, of course, you're trying to, when you're pressing the breast and things like that, you can actually end up with kind of drying of skin or a bit of tissue abrasion and things like that. So you have to be really careful when you're doing that. And of course, it's just the natural way in which you can be able to express milk for your baby. It is the easiest way to do it. You can do it anywhere. If you're traveling, you don't have to worry about, I need to bring my pump with me and things like that. The manual pump, even though, is quite much more quicker, which again, I'm comparing the two ways of expressing. The disadvantage with that is that you have to wash the pump every time you're using it. Of course, that's something that it might not be a problem at all, but if you're washing it not the same way as just washing a breast and you're good to go, it's similar, like you have to disinfect it, you have to sterilize it so that if there's anything, there shouldn't be anything growing in there in the pump, which can end up impacting the health of your baby. So I just thought maybe somebody might be seeing me doing these, posting some of these shorts and wondering, so what is the best way between the two of them? Again, choose what works for you. I'm not in a position to explain, to suggest for anybody anything, because you go for what works for you. But also on top of that, just kind of trying out. Sometimes people swear with electric pumping. I'm not really a fan of that because, as I said, I just don't have the time to stay stagnant in the same place to wait until I'm done with expressing. So that's why I prefer manual or hand expressing. It's just easy for me to do this on the go. So hopefully, if there's anyone that has questions and is wondering what is the difference or how each one of those can impact you in terms of expressing. Hopefully that will help you. Once again, thank you for your love and support. If you haven't done so already, why not subscribe, like, or share this video? Then we can be able to grow together, learn together as we nourish our little ones. For those of us who have little ones, for those of us who will have little ones in the future, and for our brothers, you might as well learn something for for the sisters or the women or the ladies in our lives. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this.